So,
Okay.
how you doing?
Oh, just wonderful.
Peachy
Peachy keen.
Well, you know what? I should probably start off by, what do you want to be when you grow up? At this moment.
At this moment?
Yes.
At this moment, I still do not know what I want to be when I grow up.
What do you lean towards? What
Different.
do you fantasize?
The closest I can get to that would be, I know which classes I am interested in taking to figure out whether or not that's what I would want to do with my life, which is basically theology, abnormal psychology, and literature. So that's the closest I can answer to that.
Okay, you have 3 wishes. What would they be?
Not to be doing this interview. And 3 wishes as to just in general.
Any 3 wishes in the world, in the universe.
I don't know. Just completely generalized.
Anything you want.
That's too general.
Sorry.
I truly do not know because I have not thought about it.
You want me to give you a minute to think about it?
I want a study guide.
Sorry, I haven't had a chance to write your study guide. We'll come back to that. Maybe
Okay.
you can think about that while we're doing this. What do you think of what's happening in Yugoslavia and the Balkans?
In the Balkans, I don't know too much about what is going on there.
But just generally what you've read and what you heard about.
I haven't read or heard much about it at all.
Do you know there's
What
a
are
war
you
there?
referring? I think I know there's war there. Are you talking about Kosovo or?
Kosovo.
Okay, the only thing I know about that is that there is a war there.
And you don't have
War
any
is
opinion?
bad. That is the only opinion I have because I don't know what you're really talking about.
Do you know that this country is involved with it?
Yes, because I remember hearing about they were having a vote as to whether or not they were going to pull out troops or send more in.
What would you vote?
They need to pull out the troops because, well, I'd have to know more about what the situation was about whether or not they should pull out the troops.
Okay. Have you ever heard of a country called East Timor?
No.
Indonesia?
Indonesia, yes.
It's kind of part of Indonesia.
Mm-hmm.
But you haven't heard. Okay. You're now the U.S. president. Congratulations.
Thanks.
There's 3 things you can do. I mean, you can do a lot of things, but what are the top 3 things
The
that
top
you would
3
do
things?
as president of the United States?
Well, the top 3 things that, one of them would have to be, at least attempting to end different sorts of discrimination and such, but there's really no way you can enforce that. It's too broad of an area to have the power to enforce, and too hard to prove whether or not people are being discriminated against.
But you would try?
It would be a good attempt.
Okay.
Need to actually, instead of spending most of our time helping, with the rest of the world, need to focus a little bit more on how everything is here.
So give me 2 ideas of things
2
you
ideas?
focus 2 more.
Well, ow, I got bit by something. 2 things for here. The basic things that everyone wants to end, People need to be employed so that they can have homes and not be hungry. And the education systems need to be better facilitated and get more money instead of the military getting it all. And sports.
You mean you think sports should get more money?
No, instead of the military and sports getting all the money. Like in the schools, football gets most of it, and everything else gets the leftovers.
Okay. What 3 people do you admire the most? They could be living, dead, friends, relatives, people you never met, historical.
His, another thing I don't know. I don't know. I've never had answer for questions of who I admire the most. It's just
Any heroes pop to mind for you?
no.
Any women?
There's many people that have admirable qualities, but don't really have any specific people that I admire the most for doing certain things. I don't really know.
Okay. If you could get rid of 3 things in our culture, what might they be?
Prejudice is the kind of snobbish air that certain parts of different classes have, and
When you say classes, what do you mean?
well, like for example, at the higher classes have
Rich?
have more of, not all of them, but how they tend to have sort of the snobbish air, which is also kind of present in lower classes also, but it's for more of a defensive reason, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But that would probably be good to get rid of, and also the indifference to the things happening around them. Just kind of walk by and watch it happen and don't really care because it doesn't directly affect them.
Okay. How would you define happiness?
Being content with who you are and the state you're in at that time.
And do you feel you're happy?
I'm not sure whether or not I'm happy, but I know I'm not overly unhappy. I'm somewhere in between, because there are things that can be bettered, but not enough where it makes you overly unhappy, depressed person. Just average, how most people are. You always want more, but not enough. I mean, you're not unhappy with who you are and what you have. I don't think anyone truly is happy. There's always going to be something out there that you want, or something you want to change.
So you consider yourself in between happy and unhappy?
Well, more towards the happy side, but there's always going to be something you want to change about yourself and others. So you can't ever really be completely happy with who you are and what you are in your surroundings and just the world in general.
Okay. When this tape might be found in the year 2175, what do you think life might be like?
Hopefully it will be much better, but there's always the possibility that things are going to go downhill because of the people being desensitized. I can't say this word.
Desensitized?
Thank you. Being desensitized, to violence and just people's struggle. But everyone wants it to be improved, so it can't really go too far downhill. Hopefully it will be for the better. And of course, the average medical and technological advances that are always happening. Don't think it will be quite to, the futuristic thing that was always thought, once we get to year 2000, we're all going to have our flying cars and all that science fiction novelty stuff.
So you think it might be like that?
No, I
No.
don't think it would be like that. I think that's a little bit pushing it. It's always possible for it to happen, but kind of being away from that theory seems a little absurd.
What socially? How do you think? You think we'll be much different on a social level?
Socially, people will probably be a little bit better because as the years go by, everything starts to balance out more, realizing past wrongs and trying to correct them and slightly compensate, even though you kind of can't do that. It's hard to change what you did in the past or what happens to different people in the past, cultures and subcultures and all that sort of stuff.
Okay. You're doing great. How did the Columbine shootings affect you?
I thought it was sad that it happened, and I did feel sorry and sympathy for the people that it happened to, but yet again, it was another one of those things that the media just kind of latched onto and decided to milk it dry for every last thing it was worth. And it appears that they try to put the blame onto certain people, and it doesn't really look like they're putting the blame on the right people, because the first thing you always hear associated to them is that they wore black trench coats. So therefore, it kind of puts the image into a lot of people's minds that if you have a black trench coat, you're going to go and shoot out your school, which was kind of the wrong approach to take to it.
What do you think the right approach might have been?
The right approach, I'm not sure what the right approach would be. It was wrong, but you also have to look at what probably prompted the people to do this. It most likely is because of the different being ostracized and society's approach to them as being different, even though they appear to have wanted to be different, but people could have treated them different in a better way so that they wouldn't feel the need to resort to such violent means. Because that's not quite the way to get people to approve of you, is by shooting your school.
Do you think it could happen in your school?
It's possible for it to happen anywhere, but I doubt it, which they probably doubted also. So there's really no way to judge it. Everything is possible, but I think it's improbable.
Are you afraid of it happening?
Not really.
Do you see other kids who are afraid of this happening?
Not directly. I think she hit a rock.
Yep.
I don't have very many people that are around me that think it's going to happen and are overly afraid of it. Most of the time, we probably get bomb threats pretty much every day at our school, and I know we do, but we are not made aware of them until after the fact.
Was that before the Columbine shootings that was happening, or right after?
It was after them, but it was more prevalent afterwards, but it also happened beforehand, because there were quite a few times I can remember when at the end of the day he speaks of, just in case you heard anything, yes, it was true, but we took care of it, which is how he usually tends to handle it. It's a good idea, but you want to know what's going on. You don't want everyone to panic, but once you hear about it happening, you're like, why didn't you tell us this beforehand? It would have been nice to know if we were going to all die and explode, but it's probably the wiser approach, which I will probably deny saying, even though we have film to back up. I did say it.
Okay, now shifting away from Columbine. How would you like to be remembered by your great-great-great-grandchildren?
The only thing that it would just, I don't know, I guess satisfy me to be known and remembered as pretty much just being an individual. I didn't let people overly affect how I conducted my life, my appearance, or anything else. I didn't let the peer pressure get to me about anything. And I was just who I was and was out more to please myself than society around me.
What other qualities do you hope you'll be remembered for?
Being relatively open-minded. Can't say that I'm very open-minded, which in my opinion I am, but that just sounds kind of conceited. Yes, I'm a very open-minded person. Keep that in mind. Just sounds bad. Just generally being accepting of people for who they are and not accenting their faults in my mind, remembering them for the good instead of the things they did wrong and that I disagreed with. And that's probably pretty much it.
Okay. Technology. Do you feel that what we have now is not nearly enough, not enough, just right, too much, way out of control?
I think that technology is going at a steady rate, and what you have is, to some people, is never going to seem like it's enough. I'm pretty happy with how it is now, even though I don't know how to use most of the things around me. Just knowing that they're there is kind of nice. But as long as I don't try to do them and see how technologically advanced I am. But
so it's just kind of just right for
it's
you
kind
now?
of just right.
Okay.
You have pretty much everything you need. And if it's not there now, it'll probably be there within a year.
What do you think is going to happen with Y2K?
I have very little belief in Y2K. It may be true. I can see how it can be relative with the computer shutting down, but many things are being made Y2K compliant, so I don't think it'll have some effect, but not to the extreme that a lot of people are trying to make you believe, that everything's going to be shut down for, over so many months, and you must harbor food and weapons and every man for themselves kind of situation. I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay. If you had only 6 months to live, what would you do?
I'd blow all my money. I'd pretty much just try to do whatever I felt I wanted to do at that time, since you only have so much time to be here. Probably take a lot more chances with certain authoritative figures living in my house, pushing my boundaries a little bit as to what they deem appropriate and not, appearance-wise anyways. And I don't know, probably just spend the rest of it trying to finish at least the books that I have now I'm planning on reading. And that would make me relatively happy if I could finish those.
Do you think you would act any differently with people you know and love?
I seriously doubt it. I act the way I feel I should act towards them now, and there's really no reason to act otherwise towards people.
Okay. For whom or what would you be willing to die for, if anything, or anyone?
I'd be willing to die probably, I don't know how willing I am to die for something. I would rather not die. Probably if it came down to, I don't know.
Is there anything or anyone you would be willing to die for?
If it was in a situation such as it was either me or someone that I loved, I would probably go more for I'd die for them. But that's kind of something you can never really decide what you're going to do in that situation if you're not in that situation. You can't predict how you're going to act with something like that.
How about, is there anything, any material possession or any principle?
I would not die for any material possession. They're not worth it. You can always get a new one. I don't know about the principles because I don't really see any reason why anyone would try to interfere with my principles to the effect of it's either I give them up or I die.
For instance, let's say we went to war again,
Oh boy.
or somebody attacked us. Would you be willing to join the military and fight?
I do not believe in the military at all.
So even if you were attacked, even if this
I
country
would
were attacked.
if the country were attacked, I doubt that I would go and join the military. I do not put much faith or stock in them. I think they go overboard with the means of not the means. Most of the things that they go to war for, I think they can be prevented or corrected other than sending people over to die and fight and kill. I just don't think it's really right.
Okay. Do you believe in God?
I don't believe in the supposed Judeo-Christian God. I don't know what. I know there is something higher than me, or else there wouldn't. If there wasn't something higher than you, then you wouldn't have guilt because you wouldn't really feel that something was wrong because you wouldn't have anything to present consequences to you. I know there's something, and what that is, I don't know, and I don't think we will ever know because there's no way to prove it. And there was, I can't quite remember who it was. I think it was, I can't remember his name. I know it was a French philosopher, and that's all I can remember right now, was he said that if there wasn't a God, we would create him. We would have to feel the need for it, have some reason to make, kind of, give us a reason for the way we are.
Sartre? Jean-Paul Sartre?
I don't think that was him.
Okay. Do you think there is life after death?
I don't know. That's another thing we'll never know until we get there, but I don't think, it is my personal opinion that death isn't something final. I tend to believe in reincarnation, your soul being reincarnated to other things, and it's more based on the principle of scientific reasons. Matter cannot be created nor destroyed, so it's not possible for something just to die and no longer be there. It would have to be transferred in some way.
Okay. Terrorism.
It's bad.
How would you define it?
Terrorism?
What is terrorism?
The simplest way I can think of putting it is probably creating violent havoc in order to gain something that you want, just pretty much going to extreme measures, unnecessary extreme measures.
Okay. Do you think that the United States has ever engaged in terrorism?
Most likely. It's very possible. They have arranged for assassinations of different leaders for other countries. It's been well documented. That I would consider that a form of terrorism.
Okay. Do you recycle?
Most of the time. As much as I can. There are always going to be situations you just don't have a recycling bin around you, but for the most part, I do.
Do you think are the environmental laws we have good enough? Could they be stronger, or are they too much?
They could be stronger, but that's another thing you can't really enforce. Can't control what people throw away and what they recycle. And
beyond recycling, like air pollution, water pollution.
I don't think they're strict enough. they're like, even with littering, they already have a fine for it, but you don't have anyone there to enforce it. And they don't really enforce the air pollution stuff because they don't set any boundaries on factories that I am aware of, but they could be. And I haven't ever really looked into that.
What book, movie, magazine, article, play, etc. has inspired you to take some kind of action or have deeper contemplation about what they were dealing with?
The only really thing I can really think of is I saw part of. I never saw the entire movie. It was called American History X. It was kind of not a documentation. It was a movie based on a former
KKK
type member.
Neo-Nazi.
Yeah, which it just also makes you question more how people can harbor that sort of anger and violence for no apparent reason towards any one group of people. What do you want? What?
Okay. So you were saying that that movie
I don't
American
remember.
inspired you?
It didn't.
Made you...
It just made me wonder even more how anyone could just have that sort of hate for no direct reason. Nothing has ever been done to them. It just really makes you wonder. I don't see the reason in it.
Could you sum up your life's philosophy in one paragraph?
In one paragraph. My life's philosophy, it's rather general because I haven't thought about it in depth. Pretty much live for that day because you don't know what's going to happen, and treat others as you'd like to be treated, because if you don't, they're just going to pretty much do the same thing that you're doing to them, to you. It's kind of the belief in the threefold law, which is everything you do, whether it's good or bad, is going to come to you 3 times as much. If you do something good's going to happen. If you do something bad, something even worse is going to happen. It's kind of the whole karma thing. Everything gets you in the end.
Okay. And the last thing is, I'd like you to read some of your poetry.
Last thing is, I will look and see if I have anything that I would like as evidence on tape.
Pretty much like what?
Like Thanatopsis.
And what is that? I don't know.
It's a poem by someone that I read in American literature.
Okay.
Means meditation on death. I thought it was a very good poem. And our assignment was to write our beliefs. And she thought it sounded too much like the original, so I only got the lowest A that there was. Made me upset, but if I can find it, I will read it. I found it. So you will be graced with the presence of my poem that I wrote last year. If I can get this to fold. Okay, and it's called Life Cycle, so I guess I will read it to you. At first we are born, knowing nothing of the world, everything looking strange and new. We go through life bonding with nature, we build up a respect and we build up a love. Going back to her when we need comfort, going back to her when we need peace. After our love flowers and blooms, we go back to her, our physical life gone, and together we become one. But one day we will return as another and love her again. It's kind of the whole view in reincarnation and similar things. And I guess here's another one, which one of my teachers, Mr. Drello, interesting man, puts the fear of God into you. And he's just overall a good teacher. He mentioned one little thing, and kind of made it into a short little poem. It's called Life. Life is full of laughter, life is full of pain. Life is full of sunshine, life is full of rain. There are many ways to look at life, as good or as bad, but you can never fully live a life that you never had. Okay, those are my poems. Those are all both old, which is why I'm looking through them, because I get in more trouble for the newer ones.
But who do you think you're going to get in trouble by reading for on tape?
On tape? Well, that's true, because no one can hear it if I don't want them to.
Right.
And you know, no one can hear you scream in the suburbs.
Can't say I ever heard that one, but it's true.
I saw it on a t-shirt. And I don't know what this is. No, I'm not going to be troubled. No, I'm not going to read this one. Never mind.
Okay.
This was rather recent. I have no... Oh, that's my homework. 4 months old.
Okay.
But
Does it have a name?
it's called Distortions. As you look into my eyes, you cannot see the darkness that lies behind. All that is visible is what you want to see, living in your constant state of denial. You see a happy child that has no cares or fears of the cold world outside, not knowing not the knowledge of hurt and sorrow that is always present. Seeing only your distortions of truth and never what lies behind, you perceive only naivety. If you saw what was truly there, you would run screaming, looking for a place to hide. For what lies behind the eyes of your so-called child is nothing sweet and cheery. The laughter that you thought you heard quickly fades away into screams of desperation and horror. Turn the page. Well, okay, let me go back a line, okay? The laughter that you thought you heard quickly fades away into screams of desperation and horror, while the heart inside her dies and falls away into oblivion, which is where her humane side now resides. Living in a constant state of torment, she is frightened into submission while the world passes by, doing no more than smacking away her outstretched hand, leaving her to collapse into the depths of darkness you never knew existed. And that's more of the inspired by people's, I forget the word, I totally forgot my word. And I think I hear my little biker buddy. Hi, Brandon. Having lack of sympathy. Do you know what word I'm looking for right now?
Lack of empathy?
Being kind of, I already said it, not caring about other people around them because it doesn't directly affect them. I've already used this word and my mind is blank.
Not caring about them.
Being
inconsiderate and...
No.
Well, okay.
You know what I'm trying to
Yes.
say, basically. But
Do you feel that that poem describes you?
the moment I wrote it, yeah. Not right now. Poems they just try to get across how you're feeling at that moment. It's a sort of, at least for me, it's therapy. Can either write or listen to music. Any sort of thing like that, which is very therapeutic for me.
If you heard a friend of yours that you liked a lot read a poem like that, would you be concerned?
Yes, and my friends were. One thought I was going to kill myself. Oh, no, it was a moment thing. It just kind of came out. I'm not going to kill myself, I promise. And her only response to that was, well, if you do, I'm just going to go and piss on your grave. It's like, oh, okay, thank you very much. But you have your moments. I have happy poetry, I have not so happy poetry, and then I have kind of just themed poetry.
So you feel like you have a pretty wide range of stuff.
I have a wide range of stuff, but the actual, I don't know, structure, style it's all very similar, but the subjects are relatively wide ranged. As is everything, down to clothes and music. You're never the same person twice.
Any last words?
My last words are, yay, it's over. I get to take the mic off and go see my little biker buddy.